All right, this is the week 2 update of The Artist's Way. Every week I'm doing an update of what I get up to for each week of the 12-week course by Julia Cameron. You can go back and check out week 1 in last week's video. So essentially I'm just going to go through what I got up to for the week. So the check-in is asking how many days this week did you do the morning pages. I'm supposed to do them 7, I did 6. I'm finding increasingly that compared to the first week, so week 1 I was pretty serious with them, doing them as early as possible. And then last week I was definitely resistant to doing them and kind of putting them off. Not to say I don't find them valuable, I definitely do find them valuable. I'm just pushing them off to a later time during the day. So whether that's 12 o'clock or 2 p.m. or something, that's where most of them got done last week. And that's simply due to the fact that I'm prioritizing business or exercise or something like that. And I do intend to get around to it, but I'm just resistant to doing them first thing in the morning, and I'm trying to juggle and prioritize what I should be doing despite having a pretty regimented daily calendar with a morning routine that has this in there for 40 minutes basically within the first hour of every day, and I'm not doing that. So that's a bit of a reality check and accountability check to kind of reclaim those mornings to take it more seriously in week 3. And yeah, because I'm doing them at midday or even 2 o'clock, I'm finding once I get to the 4th or 5th page out of the total 6 that I'm shooting for, the last 2 pages I'm just kind of either rushing through it, repeating just words and scribble to kind of get to the end, or I oftentimes I'm just trying to make up poetry or lyrics as a way to fill the pages out. I'm still filling the pages in, that's for sure. I'm just finding ways to skip to the page 6 sooner, and that's a kind of a rushed tactic, which is not going to play well long term, I don't think. So yeah, week 3, big priority is doing them first thing in the morning. Did that this morning, that was awesome, knocked it out straight away. So yeah, I did 6 out of 7 days last week for week 2. See if there's anything profound. You're not really supposed to share what's in them. I'm just trying to recall if anything stands out. It's just interesting how you can kind of be rambling in this stream of consciousness, this mind dump, and all of a sudden just this creative thought will pop out to you, or even just an interesting sentence, the way you format a sentence in the moment. They can kind of sound more intelligent than what you may come across in person in conversation or something. Yeah, it just seems to like flow because there's not a barrier. There's no like censorship in terms of what's coming out. It's kind of free flowing. It's not intended for anybody to see. So there's a bit more vulnerability and creativity in that sense in terms of the things that come out. So I can already see lyrics and ideas for videos or blog posts or all sorts of little pieces of content that are coming out more or less every day. And that is kind of one of the reasons why Julie is adamant to do 3 A4 pages every morning, or I do the 6 of the A5 ones, is because you don't really get to the gold until pages 4, 5, or 6, or the back half of those pages. So that's why I feel like it's worth pushing to get to that 6th page. Not every day is going to be amazing, but yeah, it's just the consistency, routine. So that's pretty much it for the morning pages. Not much really to report. I did the artist date on Saturday, so I was supposed to go into the city for a street photography day. It was like stupid hot, 30 plus degrees, and I wasn't really going to enjoy it as much. So I decided to stay home and pivot one of the other artist days that I had planned. So I stayed at home and watched a couple of movies with the help of my friend ChatGPT to kind of get some unique recommendations outside of my common Netflix or Apple or Amazon Prime searching criteria. I just thought I'd feed ChatGPT just a bunch of kind of requirements of what I'm looking for, something artistic, something foreign, something kind of modern. Yeah, and it gave me some great recommendations. So I watched 2 films by, his name is, I don't want to butcher this, let me double check it's right. Park Chan-wook. Hopefully I pronounced that right. He's a South Korean film director and screenwriter. So I watched two of his most popular ones, or what you recommend if you go onto Reddit or something like that. The first one was Old Boy from 2003, and the second one was The Handmaiden, which is more recent. That's in 2016. Old Boy was amazing, like so good. I've made so many notes on my phone, just interesting takeaways, visual techniques. Um, yeah, it's really interesting because in the chapter two, she says there's a lot of stuff about healing and quality of life, and essentially, in summary, if we want to have like a really good quality of life, obviously you need to kind of stay sane. You need to do things to stay healthy and mindful and not go crazy. And to do that, you need to really be present all the time. You can't be too trapped in the past or too anxious or worried about the future. So it's really about being present and being mindful of being present, which are kind of two different things. And really, you have to just pay attention when you can be present and not paying attention, I suppose. And I'm sure we're probably all guilty of that. We're kind of present in the moment, but our minds are somewhere else. But I think it's about being present and paying attention, like with intention. So there's a lot of longer words there unnecessarily, but yeah, intentionally paying attention to your surroundings and like letting things and letting creativity and creative ideas come in. And with that, you kind of see more beautiful, interesting things through life. And therefore, you become more delighted, as she says. And then that in turn just results in a more joyful life, I suppose. And it really makes sense. Like a lot of the time, I'm just busy running around, just doing work. And really, when you stop, and it was like very apparent to me that once I stopped and carved out the time for the artist date and allowed myself to forget all the other distractions, forget all the things I'm maybe running behind on or overdue on, and specifically carve out that time for the creativity block, in this case the artist date, then as soon as I relinquished those anxieties and frustrations and just sat purely to pay attention and enjoy, all the inspiration immediately started coming. The first minute of the movie, the way the credits were coming on the screen, it was kind of like the Matrix. The font and the letters were turning and transforming, and that alone was an interesting intro to a movie. And there wasn't even any characters or scene or anything happening yet, and it was really just, it clicked. What she's saying in the chapter like is true. Like it happens. It's very, very simple when you break it down like that. So yeah, and yeah, the movie itself, Old Boy, was awesome. One of the really interesting things I liked about it in terms of just the creativity, inspiration, is just the way he would use leading lines and compositions for his characters. So if you make videos or maybe you do photography, you might be aware of the rule of thirds. So this video, for example, is split 3 by 3, so 9 quadrants, and then you can position characters or subjects and things on those sort of axis points, the corners, or along the lines, and it kind of just creates segments and like different frames almost in the scene. And then obviously you can have your halfway point as well. So what he does a lot of the time is moves the character at the start of the scene that he or she character might be on a rule of thirds line, and then they kind of transition to the other rule of thirds line, or they finish the scene in the center. And it was apparent every scene was doing that. It was just a rotation of different creative movements between the scenes, and it probably happens in so many different movies, but it immediately, I could just like see it. I could see the pattern before me. Whereas if I wasn't open necessarily, and I was maybe had someone by my side, or I had a bunch of snacks and wasn't really fully paying attention, I don't think those things would have jumped out at me. I would have just been looking for cool visuals and explosions and colors and things. So yeah, it was cooler to see a little bit deeper below the surface without even intending to. It just appeared to me. So that was just a cool experience. And a similar thing happened to me last week on the first artist date I did, when I immediately, as soon as I hopped out of the car to go to the botanical gardens, just amazing car, scenery, everything just like was there ready for me to tap in. And that was just awesome. That was really, really cool. And you can feel it in real time as well. So it feels special. And yeah, I watched Handmaiden as well. That was a good film. I was quite tired in the day, so I wasn't that immersed in it. Yeah, I guess my attention span weakened throughout the day. It happens to the best of us. We're all adults, we're busy. So yeah, that was really, really cool. I'm not sure what I'm doing next week on the artist date, so stay tuned. The third point of the check-in is, or the question is, were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Honestly, I kind of bungled the task this week for the simple fact that I didn't read the chapter until Saturday. So the artist date is on Saturdays, and yeah, I just was lazy with the morning pages, as I mentioned earlier, which is a bummer, but it's just a kick in the butt for this week. And yeah, I put the task off to last minute as well, and reading the chapter to last minute. So the problem with that is, and if you're doing Artist Way, I would recommend reading the chapters as early in the next week as possible, just so you have a reference of what you're trying to uncover or learn for that particular week. Because doing it on a Saturday or Sunday when the following week is starting on a Monday is pointless, as I found out by rushing this chapter. Because there's a bunch of tasks that I could have been doing daily to assist and boost the morning pages, and I didn't know about them. And it would have made the morning pages easier, and I wouldn't have rushed to them necessarily. And yeah, so that's two things, big takeaways this week. Not so much recovery related, but more so consistency, keeping the routine legitimate, doing the homework on time, essentially. Sorry, I got fluff on my nose. And finally, I guess I'll run through some of the tasks that were kind of last minute, but I got there in the end. So last week, one of the tasks was to outline 5 imaginary lives that you could see yourself living. I think I did comedian and travel blogger and a few things like that, screenwriter. This week, it's asking you to list another 5 lives and check to see if you could be doing bits and pieces of them in the one you're living now. So I guess it is completely possible. So one of the ones now that I wrote, and these are imaginary lives. These aren't things you necessarily want to pursue, but you could see yourself doing in them. It's not like a bucket list life necessarily, because my first one is high school teacher. Not that I want to do that, but I could see myself doing that as a bit of a teacher. Author is the second one. The third one is coffee shop cafe owner. So kind of just more of a minimalist kind of low-key business owner. I wrote down multilingual travel guide. So that kind of just came out of the blue. That's an interesting one. That's something could be chipped at daily. I mean, we all have the ability to put in 10, 20 minutes here and there to learn a new language. So that's possible. And then the final one's real estate investor, which is probably something that I will be involved in at some point in the future. So yeah, all things you can kind of work on in some capacity. I mean, high school teacher, I can teach in some capacity. I can share things that I've learned. I can author, I can write things. Coffee shop, cafe owner, I mean, I can make my own coffee. That's a start. And yeah, that's just a couple of the extra imaginary lives that I wrote in this week. One task that I did was listing 20 things you enjoy. So the instructions for this one is list 20 things you enjoy doing. And this is, for me, was a pretty hard task. Yeah, so list 20 things, and the last time you did them, and then obviously you can kind of compare when you did them to see how overdue they are and things like that. So I wrote taking photos. I'm not going to go through the time frames and stuff, but just something for me to reflect on if I'm watching this back in a few years or doing this Artist Way 12-week course again to see if things have moved. So yeah, taking photos, making beats, or just making music with proper gear, not just on my phone on GarageBand. A full day hike, dedicating an entire day to. I'm holding my hand like that, but it's the fourth thing. So I'm not even gonna. I don't have 20 fingers, so forget about holding up the digits. Dedicate an entire day to starting and finishing a book. So I've just been able to clear out the day. It's kind of the same thing as having your antenna up and being willing to receive and paying attention, just clearing out a whole day, picking a book, knowing it's going to take 8 hours, and just that's it. Coffee, snacks, just smash that book. I think I've only done it a couple of times, and it's just an interesting day. Lift weights, did that this morning because I wrote this on the weekend. I'm like, what am I doing? It's been too long. Go cycling, bicycling, bodyboarding, watching movies, building digital tools, dancing alone, do that all the time. Kayaking, haven't done that 20 years. On a calm lake, I had to add in the additional info there because no one wants to kayak in a storm. Fishing, finding new albums, make homemade pizza, go to the farmers markets, visit museum, visit library, make genuine in real life friendships. Harder than it looks or seems or sounds. Play video games and getting massage. So yeah, that's things I like to do. And it took me a while to write those down. Because you don't want to write, I like chocolate, I like soda. It's just, yeah, you get the idea. It's more things that are deeper down that you haven't done for 10, 15 years that you're trying to remember that you liked. Because again, the entire book is kind of about connecting with your inner child. So a lot of these things I haven't done since childhood or since high school. One of the tasks was draw a life pie. So it's basically a diagram, circle diagram, and you put quadrants for each section of your life, and you draw a little a line between them to sort of see where you're out of balance and things like that. You don't need to see that. I did it. It's kind of unbalanced, as we all are. It's to be expected. And another one I did was 10 tiny changes. So list 10 changes you'd like to make for yourself, from the significant to the small or vice versa. As the morning pages nudge us increasingly into the present, so that's the whole thing. The book is that week was about being centered and being present. You can oftentimes kind of lose what your goals or what you're working towards because you're so focused in the present. So the idea is to kind of outline some of those things that you would like. So I wrote, I would like to master my morning routine because I missed it last week and I would have had it better week 2 had I have done my morning routine. Stick to it. Number 2, I would like to add more musical elements to my studio. Go guitar. I want a few more things when the funds are right. Number 3, I would like to buy my first property this year. That will happen. I'll make that happen. Number 4, I would like to improve my communication skills, hence videos. Number 5, I would like to have a solo weekend getaway. That would be dope. That'd be dope. And that could tie in with the other things I haven't done before, for ages. Kayaking, fishing. Yeah. Number 6, I would like to publish my newsletter consistently this year. Every week. There's no excuse. The only excuse is more creative blockage. And you're not working through what you're supposed to be working through. So let's get it happening. Number 7, I would like to buy a new couch for the living room. Makes date nights funner. Number 8, I would like to go to New York and Texas, timing permitted. I would like to fix my posture. Number 9. Number 10, I would like to look back at the end of 2025 and be proud. So that's what I've done for this week. Week 3 started today. Started early. Should be a fun one. I'm going to say that now. Could be tears and gloom at the end of the week. But even just the first half of the chapter I read this morning was awesome. So come back next week and let's see how I'm coping with week 3.